assumed by solar panels. This is going to grow over time, and that amount of load is during daytime hours. And since we're assuming that there is no storage by users, for example, in this case, we end producing electricity and we immediately have to take on a lot of load, as Professor Perry was mentioning. It's exactly the same thing. So let's say, okay, it's a challenge for the system operator to manage this, but from a financial point of view, what does that imply? Let's go to the Colombia rates formula. G is an hourly variable. That would mean that between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. we would have very low prices, very, very low prices from the point of view of G. And during other times of the day, I think that the prices would still be very, very low because we have hydro. We have a very large amount of hydro. So all this energy we didn't generate during the day is in the reservoirs, and we can generate during the night. What's concerning is transmission and distribution, because that's compensated based on invested capital. And so we have invested capital that's divided between the demand. So once the demand goes down, the cost of transmission and distribution is going to go up very quickly, and that's going to make the rates go up higher and higher. And as the rates go up, more and more people will go off the grid and install solar panels, and this generates a virtuous or a vicious cycle. But soon we're going to have very high rates to be connected to the network that are going to make us go to the other side, and we need support. And in this equation, there is nothing that talks about support. I can take from the network without having to pay anything. I don't have to pay any fixed cost. The truth is that there wouldn't be enough consumption, enough money to pay for transmission and distribution, but we need transmission and distribution, so we'd have to modify this curve a little bit so that we'd have incentives so that electrical companies conserve transmission and distribution networks, because you know what would happen, what happened with telephony, we all leave, but the cables are still there in the ground, so the industry has to think about how it's going to survive. How's it going to survive a drop in demand, but that will still have important demand peaks during the night. So as final comments, I have these. The speed of adoption in Colombia is going to depend on what I told you, on the regulation for self-generation, on the price of technology. One thing about the price of technology, what is the price of the price for developing the technology, the other is the price for importing technology, and the other is the price for installing the technology. It's going to depend on electrical rates, on the exchange rates, and on what the government decides to do. It is going to decide to put incentives or put obstacles for the entry of photovoltaic energy. So, thank you very much. Thank you, Carlos Jaime. Okay, so
we can have questions for any of the three speakers.
My question is to Perry. Regarding energy efficiency and the lack of energy efficiency. I'd like to understand your view on the subject of, for example, the experience in mature economies like Europe that have been signing and committing to agreements related to climate change, where energy efficiency is key to the achievement of these goals. How come we do not see that much energy efficiency even there? Because we would expect, for example, some regulations they are working to work as enablers.
You're referring mostly to Europe, or Europe and America, or where? Right. Well, in Europe in particular, as you know, they have this... Sorry? Oh, repeat the question. I think the question is, if I understand it, it's even though there's so much emphasis on efficiency, how come that doesn't translate into lower emission targets and commitments? Europe and more, right? It's the energy efficiency paradox. I think it's, I try to explain it. It's there, but, we don't get enough of it. Europe, however, as you know, has this 20-20-20 target. I'm sure you've heard that. So they are trying to reduce energy use by 20%, improve energy efficiency 20%, and get at least 20% of the energy from renewables. So they are shooting, at least trying to shoot 3 targets at once. America doesn't have a national policy, as I didn't have time to explain, but state by state, they pursue different policies. Some states are very aggressive on renewables, very aggressive on energy efficiency, so forth. Some states are less aggressive. So I think, as Jaime pointed out in one of his last slides, that it's politics. A lot of it is really politics. I don't think technology is a huge barrier. We have, as I showed, I think the studies in the U.S. suggest that homes can be made far more efficient than they are. Maybe not zero net energy, but far more efficient at a marginally very small, extra cost, which will pay back in, fairly short period of time. So some of it is, some people say energy is too cheap. We need more expensive energy to have even stronger incentives to go after energy efficiency. But I think I was very interested in the duck chart that Jaime showed. I've never seen that. So Colombia has a similar duck chart, huh? Very interesting. Very fat duck in case of Colombia. So, but I think that as we move in the future, the pressures will get increasingly more pronounced to push for both for demand side management, to reduce that peak demand that you saw, control the peak consumption, and also to improve energy efficiency. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I don't want to monopolize the discussion. Was there anything else that the two of you wanted to add? Gabriel? No? Okay. Let's see the next question.
Next question.
Para el profesor Carlos Jaime.
For Professor Jaime, regarding the last thing of the increase that there would be and rates that we need to rethink, what could be rethought, or what will be the future? Possibly more decentralized systems, but that the implications of that would be, I don't know, one could imagine that, for example, the coast would be on its own, the Andean region on its own, but then we would have a very different energy matrix in each region, and depending on the resources that each region has. Yes, this is a topic that we need to think about. At this time, what do I believe? I think that we need to charge a fixed rate, a rate to belong to the system. At this fixed rate allows me to access the system and to ask the system for support. I can't just use the system as my personal battery when I'm not paying for it. So maybe new services will be generated within the system. For example, a support system. So if I don't want to pay for that service, then I can disconnect from the network. And if I want to disconnect from the network, then I have to install batteries, and that costs a lot of money. So we need to talk about support. We need to work out how much we're going to charge for that support. The other issue is that when all of this happens, the sector is going to be very stressed. Professor Sioshansi recently showed us some charts from some large European companies that are losing money this year, and we can't allow the electrical companies to go broke. The issue is that it is an issue of survival of the electrical sector. If we want an electrical sector, who's going to provide support? So we have to rethink the rate configuration, charging for support and fixing rates that don't depend so much on use but on belonging to the system. For example, we could have, with so much hydro, we will have massive spills if that happens. Pregunta para Gabriel. Me estaba preguntando acerca de esta encuesta cuando usted le hace preguntas a consumidores modernos de energía, como dice, y les pregunta sobre la eficiencia. ¿Cuánto saben acerca de la eficiencia como tal? ¿Están utilizando este lenguaje o están utilizando otro lenguaje? Porque la forma en que se pregunta también podría impactar la respuesta. Sí, de hecho lo que hicimos es que en UCL hicimos esta pregunta, se lo enviamos a los
they clearly explain what does it mean actually. So first, that's what I showed this label. They also showed this label without saying, do you know what he said? So someone said it's a 5-year warranty or something, you know. They don't even know what does it mean in some cases. Then after explaining this, what is the meaning of efficiency, this is an efficient product, it will consume less energy for the same services, they understand. So actually this interview is not actually distributed the interview questionnaire and then corrected or something. Actually, the person spent 14 minutes or something in the house call discussing all these issues and asked them what do you think.
Entiendo todos esos asuntos y después les pregunto qué es lo que piensa de todo esto. Esto se les explica claramente qué significa todo esto. ¿Más preguntas? One last one referring to the work of Carlos Jaime with the group of researchers. Evidently, in some years, we will have an evolution of the energy model, very probably the current model that's based on oil will evolve towards more electricity storage-based model. So in my opinion, this work focuses very well on that line, and very personally, I believe that the interconnected energy system will not won't just stay at the same location. It will continue evolving, but congratulations, excellent work, and I will be very expectant of your future publications. Thank you very much. ¿Más preguntas?
A question for Dr. Gabriel. You showed that the population in some of these countries were very poor, extremely poor, before the $2 lane and even before $1 per day lane. And in the case of these very poor people, the upfront cost of any appliance is very important. People say, okay, I don't have enough money to buy such an expensive light bulb or a refrigerator and that. In spite of that, in 2 or 3 years, you will pay off that money. But the upfront cost sometimes is very important for poor people. So how did you manage that, or they really are able to pay a higher tariff for the appliance in order to have better efficiency?
Yeah, actually, this is a very big problem, because even in the barriers I told, the first thing is the high capital cost that actually influence the decision when they want to buy an energy appliance. what actually happened in Thailand is government had several incentives programs actually. They subsidized this, the efficient bulbs actually. So in supermarket you can buy it at a very low cost. But for the other appliances like refrigerator, air conditioner, it's a big problem actually. The capital cost is one. But Thailand, they are relatively rich compared to other countries in the region. So they were able to manage actually. But in the case of Myanmar, it's a problem. Cambodia is a big problem. That's the reason they go for a cheaper one, an inefficient one. And in the questionnaires, the shopkeepers also told that I showed the graph, they don't sell this efficient one. The reason is the profit margin is very less because it's a multinational company's product, the price is fixed by them, so they cannot increase the price. But if it's a local inefficient product, it's very cheap, but it's still nobody controls the price, so they can actually increase the profit margin. That is one reason actually why they actually didn't have this inefficient one. When it comes to the capital cost, some interesting things in rural areas, especially in Laos, the shopkeepers actually know the customers. So they have some internal agreements, like you buy it, pay by monthly installment or something. So there are some kind of, some kind of it's not kind of a informal financial agreement between the retailers and the consumers. So it works in some countries. So that actually influences what's the percentage of this household use these efficient appliances. So wherever they have these kind of facilities, the uptake level is actually high, relatively high compared to other countries. But in Cambodia, this very limited amount. The capital is very big problem, especially when it comes to the expensive item like air conditioner or refrigerator. Yeah, but still it is a big problem. But when we explain them, because it's only few people are on the border, maybe $2 range, but some of them are at the $5 range also. They are able to manage, but they need to understand the benefit first. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other question? Okay, before you leave, I have to inform that we'll have a meeting at 6:30 because we're going walking to the place. It's called Canal de Galilea. It's just walking distance, just 2 blocks from here. So at 6:30 we are meeting at here in the upper floor, the main point. We have our coffee, and we are going all there. Okay, it's not a meeting, it's a cocktail. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a meeting to have social meeting, yes. I'm sorry. Les recuerdo que tenemos
we have a social event in Canal de Galilea. We're going to go walking. We're going to leave here walking because it's just a block and a half away, so that you can be aware of this cocktail or social event.
I think the energy efficiency is a very interesting topic, and it involves a lot of issues that perhaps power engineers are not very used to, because it has a lot of social analysis, a lot of behavioral science analysis. So this topic becomes very interesting and very complex with all these issues. So thank you very much, and a final applause for them. Thank you.
Well done.